Hey everybody, What's It Fox Gaming here. So this is an exotic review video today. I was very lucky to obtain the Ravenous Exotic Rifle from the Iron Horse raid yesterday. I'm on 6 clears, I think 6 or 7 clears now to date, so not too many. I didn't get this myself, just to make you aware. My friend Predator Libbey, who I run pretty much every raid with, has gotten a few of these. He actually dropped this for me yesterday. So yeah, this is all thanks to him that I'm able to release this video. So what I wanted to do was go through the weapon, the talents, how it works, the stats, compare it to an M1A, just because this is kind of deemed as quite a high DPS weapon. So I want to see how it factors against a, ye old classic that we all fall back on when we want a good DPS build. And then sort of test it out in a real world environment for you all. I'll quickly demonstrate its talent in the firing line as well if you want to see exactly how it works. So the Ravenous, as you know, can only be obtained from the Iron Horse raid. It can drop from any boss with a very low percentage. I've only ever heard of it dropping from the first boss, in fact, but I'm sure it can drop from all of them. And then, of course, you have a much higher chance of it appearing in the chest at the end, which you need 5 keys. A single completion will get you 5 keys, however. So that's always nice, and you can obtain 1 key each time you kill that final boss. If you just keep redoing the raid over and over, you can have that multiple times, which is really nice. So its core attributes being a rifle are, of course, rifle damage and critical hit damage. So it does factor in really well into a critical hit chance and damage build, such as an M1A build. Its non-core attribute is damage to targets out of cover, which is, in my opinion, the single strongest one that you can get in games. That's really nice that it comes with that by default. So this weapon essentially relies on you swapping shoulders, and it fires 2 bullets at the same time, and you essentially build different types of debuffs depending on the shoulder that you're firing from. So it's a bit weird, it's very unusual in a good way, and it does have some sort of little quirks that you need to get used to. So let's go for that talent there. On trigger pull, fire both barrels at once. When fired from the right shoulder, hits add offensive primers, and defensive primers when fired from the left shoulder. Hits from one shoulder will detonate all of the opposite shoulder's primers when present. When detonated, each offensive primer deals 100% weapon damage, and each defensive primer grants 4% bonus armor and 10% amplified damage to armor plates for 5 seconds. And if you do manage to get 10 stacks, which is only 5 shots because it fires 2 at once, the effectiveness is doubled. So your offensive primers, when you detonate those by flicking to your left shoulder, will do 200% weapon damage. And of course, if you build up your stacks from your left shoulder and move over to your right shoulder, those defensive will give you the 8% bonus armor. The amplified damage to armor plates refers to heavies, so warhounds and those sort of minigun heavies that you get in Black Tusk missions. They just have health, but they do have armor plating protecting that health, not the more traditional armor stat, which is the white segments above their health bar. So that's really effective against those. So you'd want to sort of use your defensive primers against them and your offensive against a lot of other enemies. Because it fires 2 bullets at once, it has double the reserves. So if you have a look there, I've got exactly 1,000 bullets. I actually thought it was... Oh, there you go. Yeah, so 998 bullets, which is nice. And if you sort of look at the reticle, you notice it's very similar to a rifle one. Certainly when you're in cover, it's exactly the same. But it does fire those 2 bullets at the same time. So let's see how that works. Let's fire from the right shoulder first. And you'll see by firing 5 bullets, there's 5. I've got max offensive stacks. If I swap over, they'll be detonated. And of course, that's 200% because it's double effectiveness at the 10 stacks. You can do less than that if you really want. Swap over to those. You see I've got loads of bonus armor there. And that little cooldown just below that is the 10% amplified, or in this case 20% amplified bonus damage to armor plates. So it's a bit unusual to get used to because you do have to shoulder swap all the time, but it does hit some pretty hard DPS, to be fair. Another interesting fact that Predator Libbey made me aware of when he dropped this weapon for me is the offensive primers create an explosion when detonated. If you watch this, that does stack, apart from with weapon damage, with explosive damage. So what I've done to sort of make a build around the Ravenous is include an additional Grupo Sombra. I always had the Grupo Sombra holster here, but the second one does give you explosive damage. I've also switched out to the Demolitionist specialization tree because this gives you 10% explosive damage as well. Obviously, the advantage of Sharpshooter on a M1A build in particular is you get the extra, the 15% headshot damage. I just find this weapon isn't amazing for headshots because it fires 2 bullets, and if you're spamming it, you do get a bit of bloom. So I was happy to lose that and gain the 10% explosive damage. You could even consider factoring in a China Light here, but if I had put it in the backpack, mask, or the chest piece, I'd have to re-roll it to red and therefore be left with a yellow mod slot, at least until TU11 when the mod slots are just becoming generic. But as it stands, this is TU 10.1. We don't have that luxury. I don't want to lose out too much DPS. I want it to have the 6 reds with the 3 red mod slots. I could have put a chun light down here on my knees, but losing Fox's Prayer would be madness. It's still the single best in slot knee pad for any DPS build, and especially so for a rifle build because it is Overlord. So the way that I built this, I think, is the best way. I have gone for perfect vigilance, and the only thing I did here was swap out to unbreakable. Glass cannon I don't really rate that much anymore. It's very strong in situations where you're in control, for example in a raid or a mission where you know exactly where the enemies spawn. But for the most part, for just like open world content and heroic missions and so on, I actually don't think it's that good. You just die too much, or at least you're at risk too much, and you can't afford to play out in the open. You know, so I'm just going to go for unbreakable here because it's very safe. It keeps me alive, and this build still does a tremendous amount of damage with that. You know, that huge critical hit chance there. I mean, we're sat at 190% critical hit damage with this build and near max chance. So, yeah, I'm happy with unbreakable. It can be quite clunky when swapping shoulders in cover. So for example, if you're overlooking cover like this, you can swap easily. If you're looking to the left of the cover, I'm clicking my button in now, cannot swap. So if you're sort of looking down here, there's an enemy down here, let's just say there's a lower floor, and they come over here, and you want to swap, you've got your offensive, you want to swap to your defensive, you might not be able to see them because they've gone around the corner. Another problem is with your shields, only apply offensive. Clicking the button now, can't swap. So it doesn't work with a shield. If you're also at the side of cover, so I can't really demonstrate it here, but if this cover ended here and you're essentially in that cover, if you're over your left shoulder you overlook the top, on the right shoulder or looking right you overlook the side. If you come out of cover on that type of cover, you switch to this side and you go back, you come out again, it actually flicks you back to your original shoulder. So it can be a little bit sort of clunky and confusing when using it in cover, and out of cover obviously you're at risk if you're not using a shield, which it doesn't work with as well. So just bear in mind it does take a little bit of getting used to, but once you get it down it hits easily as hard as an M1A build, and it has all of the extra benefits of having that nice explosive damage that stacks, and of course the bonus armor as well. So generally speaking, yeah, just use the left shoulder for the 10% amplified damage to armor plates against heavies, and maybe start with your right shoulder for pretty much everything else. And we'll do a quick DPS test actually. Just reset this. Full health there. I'm just going to go for body shots here. So what we'll do, we'll start with my M1A because this is the one I always use. As you can see, I've got a very, very handsome triple god roll classic M1A with boomerang. Shame it's not damage to targets out of cover, but we can live with that. Now bear in mind this isn't glass cannon. 4.3 mil. Swap over to the Ravenous. I'm going to start with the right one. $4.3 million, so actually pretty similar. And to be fair, even though these numbers can be a little bit skewed, you know, the timing there felt about the same to me. Obviously you've got to factor in the swaps. You can just do one at a time if you prefer. Still get a little bit of bonus armor. It doesn't really make a difference how you do it, but I feel that if it's a relatively tanky enemy, you do want to be going for the 10 stacks, the 5 shots first. So yeah, it definitely has its strengths and it 100% has its weaknesses. Let's go find targeted loot. Let's have a look. What's on the map? What's on the map? Let's go get some Grupo, shall we? Why not? So of course one of the major disadvantages of this weapon, firing the 2 bullets, is landing consistent headshots is quite hard in comparison to the M1A, where landing consistent headshots is actually incredibly easy because it has minimal recoil. So I do feel that you lose a bit of DPS there, but because you're getting that 200% weapon damage explosion just from getting 5 shots from your offensive primers, really? Start the mission. It kind of makes up for it, and as you saw there, the DPS between the two and the time to kill was pretty much the same. Do I think that the M1A is more viable in more situations? Yes, absolutely. This weapon is definitely stronger than the M1A in certain situations. A great example is the final boss of Iron Horse. You can stagger her incredibly quickly with this weapon. Let's try and build up some armor here. Oh no, never mind, I killed him too fast. So yeah, I mean, you see how hard it's hitting. This thing hits hard. Keep your head.
Agent requesting backup.
Keep your head. No. Okay. Bonus armor for me there. I think it's an easy another headshot on this guy. So still landing both shots from even range. We go for the bodies here. Yeah, so it definitely hits pretty hard. It's just like I say, from range, it's a bit. Ugh. Yeah, the recoil pattern isn't as nice as the M1A, and look at that. See, this is what I'm talking about here. Look, switching shoulder, I now can't see that, and I can't even switch shoulder now because I'm in the end of this cover. So I can do it there. If I go to the end, I can no longer switch cover. If I look over the edge here, and I want to fire right side, go left side, come out of cover. Oh, I actually did keep the side there. Okay, I have found that doesn't work all the time. So yes, it's definitely a little bit clunky when, you know, at the best of times, but once you get used to that, it's fine. Honestly, it's really fun to use. And of course, you don't have to sit in cover. You could just have a couple of blues on this build, as it does hit really hard, and just walk out of cover. And maybe with the unbreakable option, that might actually be a good choice. But then, of course, you get the extra bloom, so at range it struggles. Some bonus armor from this guy. Yeah, so when those shots land, it definitely outputs some big damage. But I definitely feel this is a weapon to be used from cover. Particularly as my accuracy is pretty terrible at the best of times. I like it. I like it. It's going to take a bit of getting used to. There's a couple of you know, exotics in game that definitely are unique. It's definitely like an improved version of the Merciless. I mean, the Merciless was always pretty much dead, and it definitely is now. So, you know, I was going to do a review of the Merciless, but I'm not even going to bother. I tried it out, and it just sucks. You know, massive. They've buffed it so many times, and it's still really bad. It's just the recoil on it is just so bad that you have to use it to like brace for it to be viable. And I feel that with a rifle, that's a waste. Oh, didn't even get the shot off there. So yeah, it's yeah, it's good. It's good fun. It's something a bit different. That's for sure. And even when you swap from shoulder to shoulder, you don't actually stay in the same place as well. That's another thing I've noticed. So let's just sort of look at this here. Oh, actually you kind of do, don't you? Is it just from the left that you don't? Yeah, there it is. Yeah, if you're firing over like the left or right shoulder when you're looking at the edge like that. Yeah, so definitely some little sort of nuances there to get it right. You know, you've got to learn all these little sort of tricks to really get it down. But I find that as well, by default, my character always seems to start over the left shoulder. I don't know if that's just the way you run into it, the way you're looking. Yeah, I guess it's the way you're looking when you come in, isn't it? So again, like, you know, I'm learning all of these things as well. It's just the way you come into the cover, the shoulder you start over, which makes sense. So you've even got to think about things like that. You want to be coming into cover, or you're looking over your right shoulder. That explosion is deadly. It is absolutely lethal when it goes off. Let's try and get it on this. Yeah, look at that. I mean, I think that was 8 million damage there for the explosion, which is crazy. That's really, really high. That's like double what even the best M1A shot can hit. Because M1As, even with a perfect build with glass cannon and everything, hit around about 4 to 5 million. And that's with a boomerang crit as well. So, you know, the fact you're hitting 8 million every explosion is really nice. So we'll call the video quits there. I don't feel like I need to go any further. I just really wanted to demonstrate to you guys the strengths of the weapon, its weaknesses. You know, apologies if I didn't use that very well, though. I literally got it last night, and I've just had about half an hour's playtime with it before I released this video. Maybe I'm using it wrong. If I am, please let me know in the comments. I don't see if there's any other way to use it other than how I have, but definitely, yeah, it does take a bit of getting used to when firing from cover. And you know, I don't think that it's viable all around. The good thing with the M1A is it potentially has slightly lower damage output, certainly against bosses. I think this is going to be really strong against heavies in particular, but the M1A is just reliable all round. You can land headshots, you haven't got to worry about any shoulder swapping or different sort of debuffs. You just fire the gun into the enemy's face and they die. So if you're looking for something that's a bit different, that can output as much damage as a great M1A build, and also give you some nice buffs as well, then definitely try this out. You know, we've been pulling in some people from LFG for a lot of our raid runs as well. We haven't been able to fill out, and you know, that's been working fine. So get on that Xbox LFG if you're on console, and there's plenty of LFG websites. Obviously PC, it's a lot easier as well. So, you know, get that raid done, get this rifle, and let me know what you think in the comments. I'll have a regulars video for you in the near future. I've just got to do a few more completions first to get that, and then I'll let you know my thoughts on that as well. But yeah, please do let me know if you would improve this build in any way for your Ravenous, and if you have any playstyle tips that you want to recommend to my followers. Thank you very much for sticking through to the end, and I will see you all in the next video. Peace.